that a girl called Opie has a condition called dyslexia, and this means that she has difficulty with reading because she is unable to identify and focus clearly on the shapes of letters which make up words. Every day, as Opie labored up the stairs of her apartment block, she was aware of the secret she was hiding from others. She never took the elevator. The sign next to where she stood, leaning on the handrail, would to anyone else have said sixth floor, but Opie had turned her head away, avoiding it. The printed word was dangerous and not to be trusted. One minute the sign might say sixth floor, the next minute the letters would have shifted with sickening suddenness into gut floor. As she could not read, and that was her own private truth. Because of it, she had to lead a double life, but nobody knew, not her friends, not her colleagues, and certainly not her family. She had kept it from all of them, feeling herself brimming with the secret of it her whole life. She had, over the years, perfected a number of implausible excuses to cover up her problem. She said she was short sighted, or had forgotten her glasses, or even that her eyes were tired. In restaurants, she would shut her menu, never too fast, and ask her companion to order for her. She had a casual way of passing a page to someone next to her and asking for it to be read to her. With a cunning which came out of necessity, she spotted the kinds of people who were only too happy for a chance to show off how well they could read. Then she listened carefully, and with great concentration she appeared to the world she knew as slightly eccentric, a little detached, as she opened up the part of her mind that remembered things, so that if anyone were to question her about the content of the text, she could repeat it back to them flawlessly. Offie worked in an art store, and one day she saw through the shop window the famous photographer Evelyn Nemetov standing on the pavement as if she were just another member of the human race. Offie willed her to come into the store, and she did. While Offie sold her what she needed, they struck up a conversation, and she found herself with a job as Evelyn's assistant. She would be going on photography shoots with her. There was to mention of dealing with contracts or answering letters. Offie couldn't believe her luck. However, on her fifth day at work, Evelyn handed her a contract that asked her to fill it in. Offie took it and laid it on the table, and when Evelyn had left the room, it was difficult for Offie to draw breath into her lungs. She scanned the undulating string of letters that made up the words. The white page on the table was crammed with text, impossibly small text, letters which looked to her like lines of ants crawling over the page. They clustered and rea- reappeared, sorry, uh, and clustered and rearranged themselves before her. Seconds later, in Ophir's eyes, the text appeared to change. The letters began moving from horizontal lines, going from left to right, until they gradually regrouped themselves into long vertical columns going from top to bottom like grasses swaying in the wind. Suffocating panic cramped Opie's throat, and she was fighting back tears, knowing that it was over, that this job was doomed like so many other jobs before it, and she was weighing up and up the pros and cons of just walking out, where she heard Evelyn coming back along the corridor. As she came into the room, she said, "All finished with the contract." Sophie lifted the contract with only the tips of her fingers. She wasn't aware of the moment in which she made the decision, but it felt to her as if the contract radiated toxic material. She slid it into the blue folder and put the blue folder into a box on top of the filing cabinet. Because she wanted this job so badly, she turned round, smiled her confidential half smile, and said, "Yes, the work's all done." Since that day, over the many months she had worked for Evelyn, the blue folder in the box on the top of the filing cabinet had swelled and grown. Every bit of paper she was handed, every letter she opened, every request or contract or application that came through the door, she put in there. Any day now, she thought, she would get down the folder, which was bulging, sides straining, and deal with it somehow. Okay, section 2, reading for meaning. Read passage 2 in the insert and answer all the questions below from paragraph 1. Ophie can't read. How does she feel about the printed word? She does not feel safe with the printed word. If Ophie could read, how would she get into her apartment? She would take elevator to get into her apartment. The letters would have shifted with sickening suddenness. Explain in your own words what this means. It made her feel sick. It also means instantaneously. Explain how Ufi led a double life. She was unable to read and had to pretend that she could read. From which group of people in her life was Sophie most anxious to keep her secret? It was her family. From paragraph 2, in Ophie's opinion, which was the most implausible excuse she used to cover up her problem, she was she was short-sighted and had forgotten her glasses. When she was in a restaurant, Offie never shut a menu too fast. What impression was she trying to create? She pretended to be reading the menu at the restaurant. Explain in your own words how Offie was able to recognize people who would help her. She used her cunning tactics and sought help and to make choice of food of her. She sought, she used her cunning tactics and sought help and to read her to help her the page. Okay, she used her cunning tactics and sought help and to read her the page. When Ophi asked someone to read her a page of text, what two things did she do to pretend that she had read it herself? She would listen to the text intently. She aptly memorized each word so well that she could easily recall and recite. From paragraph 3, Ophi thought that Elvin Nemeto was standing on the pavement as if she were just another member of the human race. What does this suggest about Ophi's attitude to Evelyn? It suggests that Ophi admired her friend Evelyn. From paragraph 4, it was difficult for Ophi to draw breath into her lungs. Pick out and write down the two-word a word phrase used later in the paragraph which conveys a similar idea: suffocating panic. The letters in the contract looked to Ophi like lines of ants crawling over the page. Give two ways in which this is an effective comparison. The words and ants are black in color. The words appeared to be moving in one direction as do the ants. The writer says the letters on the page were like grasses swaying in the wind. Explain how the letters appeared to Ophi at that moment. The words swayed like grass under the blowing wind. The words looked tall like grass. Paragraph 5. Offie lifted the contract as if it radiated toxic material. What does she do? Which shows his feelings. These feelings. She held the contract with the tips of her fingers. What does the writer suggest about Offie's plans by ending the passage with a single word somehow? She does not know how to solve the problem. From the whole passage, choose five of the following words or phrases. For each of them, give one word or short phrase of not more than 7 words, which has the same meaning that the word or phrase has in the passage. Brimming, overflowing, eccentric, unusual, flawlessly, perfectly, struck up, commenced, a string, one after the other, crammed, packed, weighing up, assessing, badly, utterly.